Guys, today we're going to be talking about the author's purpose in our stories. Why does the author do certain things? So, some questions we might ask ourselves when we're thinking about what the author has done. We may ask ourselves, why did the author title the book a certain title? Or why did the author title a chapter a certain name? We could also ask ourselves, why did the author include this section or this part in our book? Why did they do that? We could ask, why did the author have a certain line? Maybe a character says something, and so we're going to ask why. So in our book today, I'm going to read, and we're going to ask some questions as we go. So first thing I can think, the chapter in our book, Indian Shoes, the first thing I'm going to do is, our chapter is called Team Colors. And so my very first question is going to be, why did the author use that title, Team Colors? Let's find out. When Ray stumbled in for Pop-Tarts, Grandpa steadied his scraggly bangs. His bangs, the front of his hair, right? Morning, Sleepy Bones. With that mess of a mop, you'll never be able to see the ball coming. Grandpa just called his hair a mop. Ray's team, the Bobcats, was scheduled to play an arch rival, the Rockets, later that day, and the Rockets boasted the league's powerhouse pitcher. And since Ray had enough trouble at bat, he wasn't much looking forward to the game. We're due for a trip to Bud's barbershop, Ray agreed, pushing the scraggly hair out of his eyes. Overdue, Grandpa said. Good thing Bud's not fussy about appointments, which means they can go to the barbershop and they don't have to have an appointment, they can just go. Ray and Gramps traipsed down the cracked sidewalk of Steel and Stone City. The day was shaping up to be a scorcher, but a friendly breeze blew by. Ray spotted an orange tabby kitten snoozing in the window of Murphy's Family Antiques, a fresh coat of paint dressing up the bus stop, and an ice cream truck playing Pop Goes the Weasel. He couldn't wait to see the barber pole, climb into one of those beat-up swiveling chairs, and listen to the talk of Cubs in the city hall. Ray could almost smell Bud's stinky cigars. Barbershops, one of the last places a man can go to be a man, Grandpa said, just like always. Ray thought about what Aunt Wilhelmina would say. That kind of talk was old-fashioned and foolish, but he kept quiet. He liked being counted in with the men sometimes. Ray liked everything about Bud's barbershop, even though he and Grandpa hadn't moseyed in since the last spring thaw. Grandpa, Half Moon, and Ray rounded the corner and looked up the street. Their jaws dropped like hooked catfish. That's a simile. They're comparing their jaw to a catfish. The barber pole was gone. The Bud's barbershop sign had been replaced by one that said, Coiffers by Claudia. And that wasn't the half of it. When Ray peeked in the window, he saw that the beat-up swiveling chairs had been replaced by shiny mauve ones, pink ones. The customers in ball caps had been switched to ladies with long, colorful nails. And when a lady with foo-foo hair opened up the glass door to leave, Ray couldn't smell the usual stinky cigars. Instead, out came the sweet perfume of rose potpourri. That is like a rose perfume. Ray didn't even think about walking to Claudia's, and neither did Grandpa. Ray glanced at his watch. It was already noon, and they had to leave for a game at 2:30. Now what are we gonna do, he asked. If I pause here, I would say, make a prediction. What are they gonna do? The barbershop is closed. Ray needs a haircut. Let's see if you're right. It's too late to track down another shop, Grandpa said. Most places are booked solid on Saturdays, but don't worry, I have a plan. Back at the house, Grandpa fetched the scissors and a towel. Ray sat down in the kitchen chair and draped the towel over his shoulders. Oh no, Grandpa's gonna cut it. You've heard me tell about my wild-haired mutt catastrophe, Grandpa Half Moon said, setting a salad bowl on top of Ray's head. He put a bowl and he's gonna cut around the bowl. Every once in a while, I'd trim the hair out of his eyes. Catastrophe's the dog, right? Everybody said it looked right professional. As Grandpa cut Ray's hair, the prickly ends tickled his neck. To keep from squirming, Ray studied the baseball schedule held by banana-shaped magnets on the refrigerator. He daydreamed about facing down the Rockets pitcher and ka-smack, hitting a home run. Before long, Grandpa Half Moon took the bowl and studied his handiwork. Grandpa said, "Looks might lopsided to me." Ray tried not to worry as more hair fluttered onto the hardwood floor. He tried not to worry when Grandpa's normally calm face drew into a perplexed frown. You've got to see this. Look at his hair. Look at his face. No. But then, after too long of a quiet, Grandpa finally stopped and said, "Don't you fret. We'll fix this." At that, Ray jumped to his feet and scrambled to the bathroom mirror. His hair looked like it had been hit by a runaway weed whacker. Big chunks lay choppy like mismatched puzzle pieces. That's great. There's another simile. His hair was like mismatched puzzle pieces. Here and there, a piece stuck straight out or sideways in the air. "What am I going to do?" Ray asked. "Now I said, don't fret," Grandpa answered. "You ever heard of a crew cut?" Ray shook his head. "Well, it's short, he explained. "Like I wore in the service." That means the military, right? "But we'll need an electric shaver to do it up right." Ray didn't know what to think about crew cuts, but he was ready to try anything. He listened in as Grandpa Half Moon called the store down the street. Near as Ray could figure, the store was all out of shavers until a new shipment came in next week. "Well, that's too bad," Grandpa was saying. "I guess we'll try something else." One errand later, Ray sat back on the kitchen chair for a couple of washes, applications, rinses, and dries. Finally, he scrambled back to the bathroom mirror. Ray squinted at his hair, parted straight down the middle. On one side, it was neon purple, and on the other side, it was neon orange. Team colors, Ray thought. The idea had sounded a lot better when Ray had come up with it than it looked in the mirror in front of him. As Ray hurried to dress for the game, he wondered what Coach Onzi and his teammates would say. Maybe, he thought, I'll just keep my cap on. Just then, Ray heard Coach Onzi's SUV honk from the driveway. It was time to go. "Good luck," Grandpa said, deciding not to ride along for the first time ever. "I'll take the L, the train, and meet you there. I just have one more thing to do after today. One more thing to look after today. You show those Rockets what for, though, you hear?" Ray hoisted himself into the back seat of the coach's SUV, and his heart slid right down to his toenails. Ooh, what description, huh? After all that had happened, he couldn't believe that Grandpa wouldn't be there to cheer him on at the big game. But Ray waved goodbye and grinned so Grandpa wouldn't know how upset he was. Ray kept quiet as Dalton Wang and Lou Wilson tumbled into the back seat beside him, and he kept quiet as Coach Onzi drove them all out to the ballpark. He just grumbled under his breath when Lewis asked about the suspicious-looking hair showing under the plastic fastener in the back of his cap. Once they reached the ballpark, Ray plopped down on the end of the team bench. As of the third inning, the Rockets pitcher had thrown the best game all season. Dalton's pop fly was nabbed by the catcher, and everybody else on the Bobcats team, including Ray, had quickly struck out. The score was 7-0 Rockets. As the fifth inning drew to a close, sunshine heated the team bench like a toaster oven. Sunshine heated the team bench like a toaster oven. The bench was hot like a toaster oven. Grandpa Half Moon still hadn't shown up, and the score was 12-0 Rockets. The Bobcats team hadn't put a single player on base. Their fans had pretty much wilted in the stands. So far, Ray had managed to keep his colorful hair hidden. He'd even kept on his cap under his helmet both times he was up to bat. But finally, sweat started trickling into his eyelashes, and everybody will see my head sooner or later, he decided, peeling off his cap to wipe his face dry and then raising his sports bottle for a drink of lukewarm water. As Ray lowered the bottle, he realized his fellow Bobcats were staring at his neon orange and purple hair. At least Ray thought nobody's going to notice the haircut. Remember, his haircut's awful, but the colors they like. Hey, look at that, Dalton explained. Your hair is the team colors. Ray, you're up, Coach Onzi said. Let's see what you can do with some team spirit. The team cheered as Ray left the dugout, his neon purple orange hair in full view. As he slipped his batter's helmet on, the Bobcat fans in the stands joined in. They clapped, stomped, and chanted his name. Ray, Ray, Ray. Ray smiled at the Rockets pitcher, but lifted his chin to say he meant business. The Rockets pitcher gave him a puzzled look in return. Ray, Lewis called from the bench. Ray, isn't that your grandpa? It sure was. As the sixth inning began, Grandpa Half Moon took his usual seat right behind the team bench, removed his baseball cap, and waved it high to show off his hair decorated in the same neon purple orange as Ray's. Hey, Coach Onzi called, that's what I call a fan. The Bobcat crowd cheered twice as loudly. The top rows hollered, purple, and the bottom rows answered, orange. Grandpa Half Moon kept waving his cap. The Rockets pitcher got so distracted that he threw high, he threw wide, he threw low, and he threw too close. The umpire called, that's a walk. As the Bobcats roared, Ray dropped his bat, pumped his fist into the air, and started jogging. He waved at Grandpa with one hand, and he pointed at his head with the other. Grandpa Half Moon waved his cap higher and shouted with all the other fans. Ray heard him yell, purple! And Ray heard him yell, orange! And then Ray's soul touched for space. Okay, so what a great chapter, huh? Well, let's go back and ask ourselves some questions. Why did the author title this Team Colors? Well, I would probably say, now that we've read it, we know the team colors are the colors of his hair. Prior to that, we really didn't know, did we? Why do you think the author included the line in here? When Ray found out that Grandpa was deciding, he said, I'm deciding not to ride along for the first time ever. He wasn't going with him. He rode the L, right? Ray hoisted himself from the back seat, and he said he waved goodbye and he grinned so Gramps wouldn't know how upset he was. Okay, why would the author say that? He grinned so that Gramps wouldn't know how upset he was. Well, that shows how close Ray and Grandpa are. We know Grandpa's never missed a game and Grandpa always rides with him. I think that was included just for us to see that Ray didn't want Grandpa to feel bad. And then what about the part, why do you think when Grandpa comes to the ballpark, why did the author include the part where Grandpa colored his hair too? Why would she include that? Well, a few things. One, we realize how much Grandpa cares for Ray. We realize maybe Grandpa realizes, oh, I messed up your hair, but because I messed up your hair, I want you to feel better. So my hair kind of looks crazy too with the colors. It also shows what a great relationship that Grandpa has with Ray. So, I have one more. Why do you think, in this story, they lost the game, right? Why do you think the author didn't say, and they're going to win the game? No, it was 12-0. Ray just got a walk. He just got on first base. Why? Why did the author have them still losing the game? Well, I think it's because the author wants us to realize, hey, it's not really about winning and losing. That's not what this story is about. This story is about the relationship between Ray and Grandpa and what a special relationship they have. And it wasn't about he won the game. No, it showed he had team spirit by coloring his hair, but also everybody accepted him and Grandpa wanted to color his hair too so that Ray didn't feel bad. So today then we have just learned about how we ask questions. We ask, why does the author include things? Your job today is just going to be to read, and tomorrow you will apply this and do this tomorrow.